All right, our next presenter is Endeavour Silver. Endeavour Silver is a silver-focused mining company which operates 2 mines in Mexico and is advancing its flagship Terronera project, where commissioning is expected in the second quarter of this year. And today we are joined by Endeavour's CEO, Dan Dickson.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks to BMO hosting another great conference. It's an important time for Endeavour. We obviously have our Terronera project coming online. A lot of the questions we've been handling over the last 2 days really centers around our Terronera project, and as Kevin alluded to, and we're in Mexico. We're a silver producer. It seems like the silver space is getting smaller and smaller as we go. Obviously, we've seen some acquisitions, consolidation in our space over the last 6 months. It doesn't leave a lot of mid-tier silver producers left, and effectively I feel like we're the only one. There's some development assets that are coming in our space, but our goal is to become a senior silver producer, and we've been a mid-tier for quite some time. We built the company off our Guanaceví and Bolañitos assets. 60% of our revenue still comes from silver, 40% comes from gold. When Terronera comes online, hopefully we see white commissioning here in the next 60 days. It's also 60% silver, 40% gold. This year we're going to produce about 7 to 8 million silver equivalent ounces just from Guanaceví and Bolañitos, and ultimately we'll come out with guidance when we have an idea of what Terronera will do for 2025. On an annualized basis, Terronera effectively doubles our production, so it will do 7 million silver equivalent ounces on its own. But really what makes Terronera so special to Endeavour is its cash flow and its cost profile. At today's prices, you're talking upwards of $100 to $150 million of after-tax cash flow, depending on the year. We are in Chile as well. We have some exploration projects in Chile. We are also up in Nevada with an exploration project, but again, mainly focused in Mexico. That's where our expertise is. Guanaceví has been running for 19 years, Bolañitos 18 years under the Endeavour flag. Never had more than 2-year reserve life with epithermal vein systems, so they're the mines that continue to go, but they are mature mines, meaning they're probably higher cost mines amongst our peers. All-in sustaining costs were expected to be between $24 and $25 amongst those 2 assets in 2025. But again, Terronera, located in the state of Jalisco, about an hour and a half from Puerto Vallarta, will basically cut our cost profile in half. So all the gold that we produce at Terronera will pay for the silver. Quickly through our assets, there's the Guanaceví. 80% of its production's in silver, 20% in gold. We've been here for a long time. Last year in 2024, we had a trunnion failure, August 12th. I remember it distinctly. We got back up to full production in December. Our operating team did a phenomenal job finding alternatives. We ran effectively at 60% capacity over that 16 weeks. Costs inflated because we're running at 60% capacity. And ultimately, again, in 2025, back to 1,200 tons per day. It is a high-cost mine because of a royalty that we have here with Frisco. Mr. Carlos Slim has a 16% NSR at Guanaceví, but ultimately allowed us to keep the mine open for the last 5 years and hopefully another 5 years going forward. You can see the El Curso mine right there in the middle of that longitudinal section, and the gap between Porvenir Cuatro and Porvenir Dos that we're trying to close up. That is all concessions controlled by Mr. Slim under that NSR royalty regime. The Bolañitos mine, again, we've been here 18 years, never had more than 2 years of mine life. From a reserve standpoint, as we mine, we replace. 80% of its revenue now is in gold, 20% silver. It's the little engine that could. This asset keeps on giving. Last year, at the beginning of the year, when silver was at $22, gold was at $1,900. This asset was effectively break even. We kept it open for the exploration upside, cost allocations, and ultimately price upside. And now this year in 2025, it will produce $20 million of after-tax cash flow at these prices. So again, how we built the company, where we're at, but ultimately the story of Endeavour is our Terronera project. Again, it doubles our production, cuts our cost profile in half. This asset's very similar to Guanaceví and Bolañitos in the fact that it's an epithermal underground vein system. The main ore body is the Terronera vein, which controls about 90% of our resources to date. We have 96 million ounces, and then there's a La Luz vein about a kilometer away. It's a high-grade gold vein that's also in our mine plan, but there's a lot of exploration potential at Terronera, and we expect to be there 20, 25 years before it's all said and done. You can see our timeline. We did secure financing for Terronera about 2 years ago. We pulled $120 million in 2024. At this point in time, we announced that construction costs are going to be $332 million. $302 million had been spent at December 31st. We continue to have over $100 million of cash on our balance sheet and working capital on top of that. Project management team's done a wonderful job. I think when ultimately we get this asset into production, it's going to come to fruition, all the work that we've done to make our operating aspects very flexible. So we've bitten the bullet early on to make sure the mine can operate to 2,000 ton per day capacity. It's a very difficult terrain. The topography is difficult. We're in a mountainous region. So ultimately work required a lot of planning. And you can see some of the pictures here of how well it's gone. We have 2 platforms. We call it the upper platform, which has our crushing, grinding, and flotation facility, and our lower platform. Our lower platform is where our tailings dam ultimately is, dry stack tailings, our filter press, and concentrate filter. That's our bottleneck. That's what needs to be complete so we can go from crushing all the way to the tailings dam. Our filter press is getting installed this month. We have Metso on site and ultimately expect wet commissioning in April of this year, with the idea that we can ramp up in Q2, a very short ramp-up period. We're estimating only 90 days. Again, a lot of the plants sitting there idle, ready to go. We've gone through our punch list. We've gone through all our commissioning components, 550 protocols required in our grinding facility. Our flotation's getting commissioned at this point. Again, it comes down to our filter press so we can start laying tails on our tailings dam. Some nice pictures. That's the lower platform as of December 31st. You can see our event pond, and then to the left is our tailings dam. Again, some nice photos. After Terronera, and again, Terronera takes us to effectively 15 million ounces of silver production. Our focus when this comes online will be ultimately extending mine life at Terronera. You can see the longitudinal section. That magenta zone is our highest grade material, runs north of 500 grams silver equivalent. But that lower part is 30 meters thick. We do have inferred ounces around that. Ultimately, we get in there, cross-cut, and we'll drill underneath to continue to extend mine life. If you include inferred ounces at Terronera, it would give us another 3 years, and it's open along strike and to depth. The La Luz vein, again, a kilometer away. It's only 2 meters thick. If you compare Terronera over the life of the 10 years, it's 5.5 meters thick. But La Luz itself is 8 grams gold, open along strike and to depth. And then we've got 20,000 hectares at Terronera. We've identified over 50 veins. We've drilled 12 other veins. 5 of those veins have mineralization north of 400 grams silver equivalent, all the way up to a kilo. So again, just the opportunity to ultimately be here 15, 20, 25 years. Behind Terronera, we have our Pitarrilla project. We announced in January that we're going to spend $26 million here in 2025. We picked up the Pitarrilla project 2 years ago from SSR. They had invested $145 million into this project, drilled over 225,000 meters, defined over 600 million ounces of silver plus zinc plus lead, so ultimately almost 900 million silver equivalent ounces. A lot of people understand this project as a big open pit, 30,000 tons per day, which lines up to SSR's feasibility study they published in 2012. We've looked at this from an underground standpoint. Some of the work that SSR has done is they permitted a plant, they permitted underground mining. What needs to be done is a tailings dam permit. We are currently working on a dry stack facility, engineering that so we can submit that for permitting at the federal level, and ultimately it would have sufficient permits to start construction. We're also working on studies, mainly power consumption, whether we do that localized or come off the power grid, and then finalizing the location of that tailings dam. Again, 26 million will be spent this year. About 10 million is drilling, and we're drilling underneath what would be deemed a manto. So at the bottom of the open pit for SSR was a manto. It's about 7 million tons, grading 300 grams silver equivalent. And below that's 3 feeder structures that go to another 800 meters of depth, all within 70 meters of each other. Those feeder structures average north of 350 grams per ton, and ultimately that's what we're focused on for Pitarrilla, to be an underground operation going after the sulfides. If you cut the 600 million ounces into just sulfides, you're talking about 225 to 250 million ounces of silver. Ultimately, we see that we can be at Pitarrilla for about 20 years. We've got that work to get done. We have in Q1 2026, we expect to put out a feasibility study. And then from that point on, make a construction decision and leverage what we have. That's our story. It's a relatively simple story. Again, our operations, Guanaceví and Bolañitos, 19 years and 18 years respectively, without more than 2 years of reserve life. They keep going. Terronera, near-term growth. Again, ramp up in Q2, hopefully commercial production for Q3 2025. Doubles our production, cuts our cost profile half, and then try to continue to grow with our Pitarrilla project. Again, Pitarrilla, we think, can do almost 7 million ounces of silver, plus zinc, plus lead. Allows us to get into that range of about 25 million ounce silver production, and ultimately, hopefully, we leave that mid-tier space from silver and become a senior silver producer before this decade's out. So thanks for coming around again. Thanks for BMO for hosting such a great conference, and open up for any questions.
Yeah, Dan, maybe one for me. You've got CapEx winding down at Terronera, cash flow expected to start ramping up. Maybe if you can talk quickly about your thoughts for the balance sheet.
Yeah, I mean, when we took out the debt, or took debt from SocGen IG from project loan financing, it's an 8-year term, so there's 6 years left on it, holiday to pay back principal during construction. Cash flows at that time were expected to be between 50 and 60, 70 million dollars. Now we're looking at 120, 150, and as I say, at December 31st, we had north of 100 million dollars of cash. The idea would be that we'd pay that debt off as best we can quickly, but ultimately recognizing that we want to leverage the cash flows that will be coming from Terronera into Pitarrilla and continue to grow the company. So it'll be a combination of debt and equity if we get the results that we expect with our feasibility study on Pitarrilla. But we're really entering a different phase for Endeavour than what we've seen over the last 18 years.
Excellent. Well, that runs us out of time. Thanks a lot, Dan.
Thank you.